Hey, how's it going, everybody, and welcome back into the SFS channel. My name's Gavin, and today we're going to be diving into my first ADP battle of the 2022 offseason here. I had a lot of fun doing this style of a video last year where we take two players being selected at very similar spots on the draft board. We compare their situation, we dive into the numbers, we talk fantasy, and we deep dive into ultimately who I believe is the best selection at that spot on the board. Essentially, this is difficult decision making here, and again, really trying to dive deep into figuring out who is the best situational fantasy football player here. So today we're going to be talking through Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase, two college teammates at LSU, and obviously two of the best young wide receivers in the National Football League, and a very difficult draft choice on the early stages of the first round in fantasy leagues this year. So if you guys are new around here, drop down, click that like button, subscribe to the SFS channel, and turn the bell on so you never miss an episode like this in the future. We've got a lot of rankings videos coming out this coming week, and make sure to go down in the description of today's episode and check out SFS Weekly. Tomorrow on Sunday, I will be posting my top 10 secrets to dominate your 2022 fantasy football league, so you don't want to miss that. It's free exclusive content here, and we'll get you guys set up and squared away with that stuff. So go check out SFS Weekly. All I need is your email address, and as always, I promise I will not spam you. So without further ado, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the ADP battle. Alrighty, here we go. So just want to remind you guys, if you're looking for a draft guide this fantasy season, check out sizzlefantasy.com. We just had a ton of new drops on the website this week. The sleepers, the busts, the must-own players in rounds 1 through 20 are all live on the site. Again, that's sizzlefantasy.com. And if you want to get yourself hooked up with free draft guide access this season, check out Underdog Fantasy, and when you use promo code SFS, that's going to get you double your money on Underdog. They've got some really cool NBA Finals pick'em events right now. Draymond Green for Game 5 is got a line, a special promo event, over or under half a rebound and assist. So essentially, if he gets one board or one assist, you're going to hit the over on that, and then you just got to get one more line to cash in on that prop. But on on Underdog, when you use promo code SFS, again, that's going to get you double your money up to $100. So if you put $100 in, they're going to hook you up with $200 to play with. And then again, you're going to get the draft guides for free on sizzlefantasy.com. Again, sleepers, busts, and must-own players are all live. We just incorporated a search feature on desktop, so you can basically search for any player or thing that you're looking for on the website right now. And if it's live on the site, you're going to have access to it and be able to see that. Articles, all kinds of great stuff. You're going to get access to my DMs on the community Discord server. And if you sign up before the end of the month of June, we're going to give you in-season lineup advice for free for the entire season as well, for using promo code SFS on Underdog Fantasy. So today's Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase, though. We're going to be toggling through just these two slides here. We've got Jamar Chase. His ADP is 5.1 on Underdog basketball formats, and Justin Jefferson is the 4.1 overall selection, again, on Underdog Fantasy. So you've got a one-pick gap here between these two players. Of course, that is the name of the game for today's video, is we're looking for guys that are very, very similar in terms of where they are being drafted at on the board. So I figured today's video would start well with, if we dove into the production for the 2021 season, assess the landscape, and talk through exactly what happened last year and why Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase finished the places and positions they did a season ago. So let's start with Jamar Chase here, the rookie, the guy who actually ended up breaking some of Justin Jefferson's rookie receiving records that he set just the year prior. Jamar Chase just finished his rookie season and is entering into year 2. Justin Jefferson's 1 year ahead of him. He just finished his second NFL season, is entering into year 3 now. So the 2021 numbers for Jamar Chase are as follows. He had 128 targets that ranked 17th in the NFL in his rookie year, 81 receptions, which ranked 18th, 1,455 yards receiving, which ranked 4th. Insanely impressive to be top 5 in that metric as a rookie, especially not having top 12 targets come your direction. He had 1,532 air yards, which ranked 8th, so you're getting a lot of efficiency here with deep ball passing and accuracy from Joe Burrow, and 13 receiving touchdowns, which was top 5, number 4th overall to be specific. So the main key here, the most important metric to walk away from this group with, is he was 5th in fantasy points per game. So you're getting a player who is giving you elite levels of production as a rookie, fresh out of the boat to the National Football League, learning on the fly here. He's got his college football quarterback, Joe Burrow. So the chemistry day one was a big factor. It helped a ton here. But you've obviously got yourself one of the best wide receivers on planet Earth as a rookie, and he's going to get better in year two. Now, if we dive over to the other side of the equation, we've got Justin Jefferson. Now, he did have a little bit more production in 2021 than Jamar Chase did. He had 167 targets, which ranked fourth. So you've got almost 40 more looks throughout the course of the season than Jamar Chase had. 108 receptions, which ranked fourth. So you've got significantly more volume heading the direction of Justin Jefferson. 1,616 yards, which was second behind Cooper Kupp only in the NFL, and 1,996 air yards, which was top of the National Football League in 2021 production. 10 touchdowns, so both of these guys cracked double digits, and he was seventh in receiving touchdowns, again, at that number of 12. So, what does this boil down to here? Justin Jefferson has the advantage in 2021 production. He was the better fantasy football player a season ago. He was fourth in points per game. Jamar Chase was fifth. So you are really, really neck and neck here. These two players are phenomenal. In Justin Jefferson's rookie season, he had 1,400 receiving yards. So you've got the element of back-to-back 1,400-yard plus years. He's the total package from running routes, inside breaking, outside breaking, deep, intermediate, short. Jefferson can do it all. Jamar Chase can certainly do it all as well. But I would say that his skill set and his usage in this Bengals offense is used a bit more strategically to press the field vertically. And those are all things we're going to talk about here in a second. So the next kind of factor of things, so those are the raw production numbers. Now it's time to dive into the efficiency and exactly how those numbers came about here. How did these two players come about scoring top 5 fantasy point per game metrics? And how exactly, and eventually kind of the synthesis part of today's video, is we're going to be talking about how that projects into 2022. We're going to take these 2021 numbers, bunch them up, lump them together here, assess how situations have evolved here in the 2021 offseason, and then again project that here going forward for 2022 and try and determine and ultimately predict who will score more points this coming season. So let's stay with Justin Jefferson here. The main reason, in my estimation, that Justin Jefferson saw a significantly larger amount of volume, 40 targets, it was actually 39 targets if you want to be precise here, 39 more targets than Jamar Chase, is because of the target share. 29.9% of the target share of Minnesota's offense, so 30% of the offensive passing volume, essentially, in Minnesota was directed to Justin Jefferson. That's nearly 1 in 3 passes is heading his direction. That's unprecedented. You almost cannot get better than that, and I don't necessarily think that Jefferson will this coming year. 30% is a really hard marker to go above here. We saw guys like Devontae Adams do it this season with essentially little to no target competition. You've got, moderate factors from Allen Lazard and Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon to get some work as well, but Robert Tonyan had an ACL injury, and there's really no significantly established number 2. Now, that is not the situation for Justin Jefferson. I'd say he does have a very competent number 2 and number 3 receiver in that Vikings offense, and we'll talk about Jamar Chase here, who certainly has a significant number 2 and number 3 target in his Cincinnati Bengals offense. But the moral of the story here is that Justin Jefferson is plain and simple on track to be one of the if not the best wide receiver in the National Football League here. Jamar Chase, again, is certainly in that conversation and could catch him here. When we look at the efficiency numbers, you will see just how insane these two players are in terms of their efficiency and ability to produce on a per-target basis and make the most out of their opportunities. But I think that Justin Jefferson has kind of hit the peak here in terms of what we can expect from him on a year-to-year basis. So I would not rule out having a back-to-back 29 to 30% target share season. I just don't think that we're really going to see that number bubble and expand any further than it did a year ago. Really, the opportunity that Justin Jefferson has to improve in the fantasy scoring department comes in his yards per target metric, which we'll talk about in a second here, and B, he's going to have to score more receiving touchdowns. He's going to have to become more of a weapon in the red zone. And if he's unable to do that, I think that he's going to have to just be comfortable with maintaining his levels of fantasy success. So with that target share, the next kind of important thing here that I'm going to dive into with Justin Jefferson before we go back over to Jamar Chase is looking at the surrounding targets in the offense. In particular, the next two most significant competitors for receiving targets and volume in the Vikings offense. Those two players, of course, are Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne. Now, I would love to talk about Irv Smith today. However, it is a bit unique and it is a bit difficult to really have a good idea of how Irv is going to factor into this offense. I think he's going to have a significant level of usage in this Vikings offense. However, with him not playing in 2021, with them having more of a red zone weapon in Tyler Conklin last year, a guy who wasn't at all really a first and second down volume receiving threat. Now, he would catch passes at various times of football games, but I think that Irv Smith, just as a pass-catching playmaker, is a lot more of a competent receiving threat. I do, again, think Irv will be factored into this offense. I love him as a late-round sleeper tight end target this year. But, again, it is a bit more difficult to project those numbers because he hasn't played since 2020. And his role in this offense is relatively unknown at this time. So, Adam Thielen a season ago had a 21% target share of this Vikings offense. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not overly detrimental when you talk about Jefferson still seeing, again, a 29.9% target ratio in this offense. The other factor here is KJ Osborne. Osborne had 14.7% of the Minnesota offense. You could consider him as a guy who's kind of on the bubble of having a breakout season. And I think it's very possible, and there is significant potential here, that these two players total hover around a similar metric that they were at last year. The total target share that those two players combined had was 35.7% of this Vikings offense, which is just 5.8% higher than the total number that Jefferson saw his way as an individual. So you see that Jefferson has a clear monopoly, if you will, on the high volume opportunities in this Vikings offense. And again, I don't see that going anywhere. I think that even if Osborne and Thielen improve and see, and I don't necessarily think Adam Thielen's someone who is going to improve, but I do think he can maintain. KJ Osborne is really what's interesting here. I do think there's an opportunity for him to maybe eat into Thielen's work a little bit. Neither of these two guys are going to eat into what Justin Jefferson does, because as a talent and as an offensive piece, Kevin O'Connell is not going to be an idiot and take targets away from him to throw elsewhere unless the defense is totally hampering him, doubling him every play, and not leaving the option to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson. But they will find ways to get him the football regularly and early and often in games. So as far as the situation goes from 2021 to 2022, I don't expect a ton to change for Jefferson here. I think, again, the best chance he has to improve as a fantasy playmaking option is to score more receiving touchdowns. If he's able to do that, Jefferson easily has wide receiver 1 overall upside. If he's not, I think we can expect similar number 3 to number 4 fantasy wide receiver production. And at the end of the day, obviously he's got top 3 potential because he's being drafted as a top 3 option right now. But especially with guys like a Devontae Adams now having a new situation and potentially not being able to produce as highly as he has in years past, Jefferson, again, I apologize, has wide receiver top 2 to 3 with potential for sure. And again, if he scores more TDs, could easily balloon into that next tier up there and become the wide receiver 1 overall. So now let's go back to Jamar Chase. Let's talk through his rookie season, the target share breakdown in Cincinnati, and exactly how I project this going forward. So last year, Jamar, as a rookie, had a 23.7% target share of the Bengals offense. That's 6.2% target share, percentages lower than Justin Jefferson. Now, target share is not created equal. Not every offense passes the same amount as the other. I mean, you've got teams like the Ravens or the Titans or the Eagles that are going to have more rushing attempts. Therefore, their overall passing volume is going to be a bit lower than teams that air the football out like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and throw the football a league-high amount of times a season ago. So All target share, again, is not created equal. We're going to talk about how the team breakdowns were for the previous season, team passing plays per game, all that great stuff. But what you need to know here is that Jamar Chase had a 23.7% target share, which, again, is over 6 percentage points lower than what Jefferson had in his offense. And when we look at the target share competitors in Cincinnati, I think they are significantly more intrusive than the target share competitors are for Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. T. Higgins actually had a higher target share percentage by 0.2% at 23.9% of this offense. So that is a kind of a red flag when you're seeing that Jamar Chase is not seeing a team high in target share. Now, I am not going to dispute or question the fact that he is the most talented wide receiver in this Bengals offense. His chemistry with Joe Burrow is unmatched in terms of other players on this team. Jamar Chase is the wide receiver to own in Cincinnati, but T. Higgins is also an absolute dog as well. And if you can scoop him up in the third round of your drafts, you should be doing so because he is going to be a very strong wide receiver one this year. However, again, Jamar Chase, I'm not counting him out of this video, and I am certainly not saying, it seems like I was bashing on him a little bit there, or at least as I'm talking, that's how I feel that I am projecting towards you guys right now. But that is not at all the case. Jamar Chase is very much in this running right now, and despite the fact that he was out-targeted, it was his rookie season. And as I've said, he is the best pass catcher in this offense. I expect his target share number to increase this season. Now, what I do not expect is Jamar Chase to have a 30% target share of this Bengals offense. I think it's more realistic to project him to 25 to 26.5% of this target share because of the level of involvement T. Higgins is going to have here. And when you look at Tyler Boyd at 18.4% of the Bengals offensive target share, both Higgins and Boyd, if you line up the wide receivers 2 and 3 from Minnesota and Cincinnati and stack them up against each other, the wide receiver 2 and 3 options for Cincinnati have a higher piece of the pie in their offense than the wide receivers 2 and 3 for Minnesota do, that being Adam Thielen and KJ Osborne. So the ceiling for target share potential and percentage for Jamar Chase is already lower because of the competitors he has for looks in that offense. So that's kind of the second area where you've got the 2021 production for Justin Jefferson higher than Jamar Chase. The volume potential and projection for this coming season, I think, also swings in the favor of Justin Jefferson. So now we're going to dive into efficiency numbers here. This is what really tells you about the talent of a player, the ability to be a playmaker. But the thing I love about this is Jamar Chase. They are both very young players who are still ascending and getting better. But Jamar Chase is just a rookie, baby. He's going to keep getting better. And these numbers are absolutely gaudy for a guy that is entering the year as a 21-year-old player. And now you're getting him in his second season. And again, is going to continue to progress, understand the offense better, and just really have a solid feel for things. So staying with Jamar Chase here, his 2021 efficiency, the two main stats I care about here are his yards per route run and his yards per target. This shows me how effective he's being on opportunities, how often he's making plays when the football comes his direction. And again, when you're on the field, what are you doing with your opportunities? So he had 2.71 yards per route run. That ranked 8th in the National Football League, again, as a rookie. That number is ridiculous. I cannot continue to harp on how impressive that is, because that just shows you the impact he's having on the game, and that when he's out there running routes in the passing game, he is making things happen. Additionally, his yards per target was 11.4, which was top 3 at the number 3 ranked position for the NFL. So ridiculous things for Jamar Chase here, and I think that he will continue to, at the very least, maintain this level of success. And he has the opportunity to improve upon it and become even better this season. Now, if we look at Justin Jefferson, he has 2.76. Let's go back to Jefferson here. 2.76 yards per route run, which ranks sixth. So a little bit better than Jamar Chase. However, if we look at his yards per target, he had 9.7, which ranked 12th, lower than Jamar Chase. So what does this number tell me? This tells me that you are seeing a guy in Justin Jefferson who is seeing more yards per route run because of the volume and opportunities that he's seeing, but the increased volume is lowering his efficiency in yards per target. Because Justin Jefferson led the NFL in dropped passes this season. He actually had quite a few blunders that could have been big plays last year. And again, when you're seeing more looks and more volume, more opportunity, the chances are that, and the facts are just Justin Jefferson seeing more underneath opportunities, more underneath routes where he's being forced to create after the catch, which is a great thing. It's a positive, but it's going to lower that efficiency and that yards per target number just a little bit. If Jamar Chase sees his underneath usage increase this season as well, and he gets more, pass catching opportunities at the line of scrimmage, his yards per target will decrease as well, but he's still going to have a very, very strong yards per route run number. So essentially, what these numbers tell me is that without the same level of underneath and intermediate usage, Jamar Chase was as good of, if not a better player than Justin Jefferson this season. I think that the offensive talent as a player for Jamar Chase is better than Justin Jefferson. These are two elite players, and, with Devontae Adams and Tyreek progressing towards the end of their primes, who knows how long Cooper Kupp can keep up these ridiculous numbers, definitely for this season, but in terms of just overall longevity, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are primed and poised to be the two best wide receivers in the National Football League within the next couple of seasons here, and who knows, they could potentially take that crown and throne this year. There's a chance that both of these guys kick the door wide open, kick Cooper Kupp to the number 3 position as an elite fantasy floor player who also brings a great floor value to, who also brings a great ceiling value to the table. But these two guys' ceilings and their offense might just be so high that they could finish as the wide receivers 1 and 2 if they stay healthy this season. But again, I think that when we look at these guys, we've got, now the production, the target share, opportunities broken down here. We've talked through some efficiency with these players. Obviously, they're both insane talents, ranking in the top 12 at both of those major statistical metrics. Now I want to talk through the X factors, the differences in the situations here, because I think that, again, if you talk about the production, it swings in the favor, and the volume, it swings in the favor of Justin Jefferson. His yards per target and his yards per route run, not his yards per target, were a little bit better than Jamar Chase. So it seems like the situation is leaning a little bit in favor of Justin Jefferson, breaking down those two things. But you have two very important X factors, which are the quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins versus Joe Burrow. And I'll tell you, there are some ridiculously impressive numbers here from Joe Burrow that really want to make me just pound the draft button on Jamar Chase every single time. And we'll get to those in just a second here. But something I wanted to talk about that I found very interesting is, despite the fact that I bet every single person watching this video right now, if I asked you who is the better quarterback, Joe Burrow or Kirk Cousins, I'm willing to bet everyone out there except the Vikings fan would tell me Joe Burrow's the better quarterback, and I hope the Vikings fan has enough humility to tell me that Kirk Cousins is not the same player that Joe Burrow is, who just dragged the 32nd ranked offensive line in the National Football League to the playoffs. His pass protection percentage was the worst in the National Football League last year. Jamar Chase's catchable target rate, however, last season was 78.9%, which was 33rd amongst NFL wide receivers. When I looked at the same metric for Justin Jefferson, his catchable target rate was 79.6, a 0.7% difference, so virtually no difference at all, but that small discrepancy between metrics was 8 spots higher and put Justin Jefferson ranked 25th in the metric. I apologize, I keep forgetting to move back and forth between players. Additionally, when I looked at catch rate, Jamar Chase was ranked 54th in the NFL at a 63.7% catch rate. And when I looked at Justin Jefferson, his metric was 64.7%, which ranked 47th. So again, the metrics are not a massive difference. That's a 1.4% advantage towards Justin Jefferson, which is additionally impressive because he has more volume coming his direction. So he's having more opportunities to catch passes, but also having more opportunities to drop them. Especially when he led the NFL in drops, he still had a higher catch rate than Jamar Chase did. Now, part of this, again, factors into difficulty of catch. Justin Jefferson, again, catching more passes close to the line of scrimmage, 5 to 10 yards downfield. Jamar Chase is getting that football rocketed downfield and obviously has the difficult task of catching a vertical stretching route down the field. And a lot of times with relatively difficult coverage. So, hence the Super Bowl play over Jalen Ramsey where he caught that ball one-handed down the sideline. That was a heck of a feat as well. But here's where things really, and actually, I'll get to this number last. So here's where things get really interesting. I was going to talk through team passing plays per game, which will be the, spoiler alert, the deciding factor of today's video. The X factor for Jamar Chase, that for me, despite those two previous stat metrics from the quarterbacks, that makes me just drool over him on the draft board, especially at that number 5 pick. If I can get him at ADP, bam, 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 give me Jamar Chase every day. The two things that I thought were just absurd is that despite having the 32nd ranked offensive line in the National Football League, the worst pass protection rate in the NFL, Joe Burrow was number 1 in deep ball accuracy and number 1 in accurate passes under pressure. That is clutch generational type stuff right there. I'm totally like football nerding out on you guys right now. But holy crap, those are two big time things to have on your side. When you're an efficient playmaker, a guy who was, again, what was it, like number 8 in air yards, and number 4 overall in yards this season. This is a guy who's having, again, efficient play. You're 39 targets below Justin Jefferson. You need high-level passes downfield if you're going to produce at an elite level, and he has it made with Joe Burrow and obviously that chemistry on that Cincinnati Bengals team. When we talk about Kirk Cousins, on the other hand, he is 18th in deep ball metrics. So yes, Justin Jefferson has the talent. He has the ability. He can get downfield, but there is a significant drop-off of 16 quarterbacks. That's half the starters in the National Football League in terms of quality of passes you're getting between Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson. Jefferson needs those extra targets downfield to compensate for the efficiency and successful production rates that Jamar Chase is able to have because of that number 1 ranked deep ball passing and that number 1 big time throws under pressure metric there for Joe Burrow. And mind you, the offensive line has gotten better, so the opportunities that, or the situations, the circumstances that he's going to have to step up and just throw a dime while getting killed is going to go down here this season. However, the number 1 thing that is the difference maker for me today, I am 1,000% open to changing my mind on this later, but the key for me today, the thing that really sits and resonates with me and is really the final grounds upon which I make my decision, is team passing plays per game. This again goes back to volume. This goes back to situational opportunity. And this goes back to how many times or additional chances will a player get to make a positive impact and play on the game. That being Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. The Cincinnati Bengals, which you think of deep shots downfield, high passing volume is your expectation. And between those 3 wide receivers and having a very competent tight end now, Hayden Hurst, CJ Uzomah was very fine last season, and Joe Mixon on the backfield as a competent pass-catching back as well. A team that was 10-7, yes, made the Super Bowl, but they weren't blowing people out all season long. They were in tight games, playing close football games, and contested contests down to the wire, despite the fact that you talked about a game against San Francisco that they were trailing for much of that contest and had to throw a heinous amount to try and catch up in that game. Despite all of this, despite the fact that, it's not like a Tampa Bay where you're leading teams and you're the clear prohibitive favorites in the majority of your contests, and you are still number 1 in team pass plays per game because you just want to rifle the football out every play. The Bengals were 17th in the National Football League, so in the bottom half of the NFL in team pass plays per game with 32.7 passes. This is because they're a solid, well-balanced football team. And this is a team that heading into 2022, I expect to have more positive game scripts, be able to front run late in games more frequently, and I think that it is very possible that this 32.7 passing plays per game does not improve. Maybe it will marginally. Maybe they'll find a way to get into the lower top half of the NFL. But again, for a team that I would argue got better, their offensive line has improved, more incentive to run the ball, the ability to be more efficient on plays where you do pass, I think it is, again, highly, highly likely that this number does not get into the top 10 this year. Because, again, in a season where they were playing from behind a lot, playing very competitive games down to the wire, they were still in the bottom half despite having Joe Burrow, despite having the 3 wide receivers, despite having a high-level producing offense. They were 17th in the league. When I looked at the Vikings, and I'm very sorry again because I have yet again forgot to go back to Jamar Chase while I was talking through him here. When I talk Vikings, I was shocked that for a team that was led by a defensive-minded head coach that loves to run and throw play-action passes off the run game, despite the fact that, yes, they were not an elite team this season, they did not make the playoffs, and they did not always have positive game scripts this year, the Minnesota Football Vikings, that sounded absolutely terrible to say, were 35.6 passing plays per game, which ranked 7th and 10 spots higher than the Cincinnati Bengals in passing offensive volume on a per-game basis. This breaks my heart because when I look at the Vikings, I think we can expect similar things this year. Kevin O'Connell comes from the offensive side of the football, and despite the fact that you could make the argument the Vikings maybe got a little better this season, I think that they are not that much better than they were a season ago. I expect equally as many negative game scripts. I expect equally as many opportunities and situations with the necessity to throw the football late and to have a high volume of passing plays per game. And I think that it is very unlikely that this team transitions offensively to a spot where they are front-running late in contests and have the luxury of being able to run the football significantly more times than they did last year. I think it's very, very likely and possible that they maintain similar levels of offensive passing production. So for that reason, between Jamar Chase and here we go, Justin Jefferson, I will be drafting Justin Jefferson slightly ahead of Jamar Chase this year. Yes, their ADPs back-to-back, so if you've got both on the clock, I'm probably going to lean Justin Jefferson's way more often than not. Now, I do think Jamar Chase has the potential and will eventually become the better player. I do think he will become more efficient. But when you tell me that he has more significant competition for targets in his offense, T. Higgins is and this is not Adam Thielen slander whatsoever, but T. Higgins is a better football player than Adam Thielen is today. It's just plain and simple facts. There's a reason his ADP is in the 3rd round and Adam Thielen's is in the 6th or 7th round. I love Adam Thielen at his draft price. I love T. Higgins at his price. But if you had to take one of the 2 receivers to be your number 2 option in offense, I'm taking T. Higgins every single time. With more significant competition between your number 2 and 3 wide receiver, the fact that I expect Justin Jefferson's offense to have more passing plays per game, and the fact that these 2 players are both of the utmost elite level of talent at the wide receiver position, I have to bet on the fact that volume will prevail as king in this situation. The increased level of opportunities, the talent, it will all come true here and continue to be a dominant force in Justin Jefferson's point per game profile. These 2 players are both going to finish top 3 if they play all 17 games this season. They are ridiculous. They could finish 1 and 2. But again, in PPR formats especially, when that volume and just catching more passes comes through and prevails in this offense, I think Justin Jefferson will finish slightly higher than Jamar Chase in fantasy points per game. And if obviously they play equal amount of games, that's going to result in him having a higher wide receiver finish this season. So draft the hell out of these 2 players in your fantasy leagues this year. They are amazing targets, amazing options at the 4th and 5th picks in the draft. I will scoop them up every single time that I get the opportunity. But for today, the takeaway from today's video is I am taking Justin Jefferson slightly over Jamar Chase, and I'm very interested to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. So drop your opinions. Who are you taking? Let me know. Again, down in the comments, I'll get back to you if you want to have a question about today's video, if you want to argue Jamar Chase. I'm the biggest Jamar Chase fan. Do not get me wrong. I've got the guy in Dynasty. I've got him as my number 2 Dynasty player on the board. Jefferson's my 3rd ranked Dynasty player. But in a bubble, in the narrow lens of 2022 fantasy football, give me Justin Jefferson. I think that you really can't go wrong here. But if you're looking for that slight edge, that slight difference in a full PPR format, I will take Jefferson again. But I'm highly interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Again, one more time, please put those down in the comment section below. Like today's video if you enjoyed. If you found it informational, subscribe to the SFS channel, turn the bell on so you're never late for a video, and go check out some more videos that we posted this week. Again, SFS Weekly will be dropping tomorrow, our first edition of that platform. And again, check out the SFS draft guides on sizzlefantasy.com. Lots of great stuff just went live in there. And we'll be continuing to post new and fresh content every single week. You'll get personalized advice from me if you sign up for SFS Gold, which is where those draft guides are hosted on. And you'll get a whole year of gold free if you sign up on Underdog Fantasy and use promo code SFS. When you deposit $10 or more, they'll double your money. And it's a win-win situation. You're going to get a great app to play best ball formats on, do fantasy drafts. It's one of the best tools out there. They have the best ADP in the industry right now, and you can also play some awesome pick'em games during the NBA Finals here, and you can save your balance for the NFL season as well if you'd like. So Underdog Best Ball Fantasy, code SFS, gets you a free draft guide and double your money. SFS Weekly, you're getting my 10 secrets to dominate your 2022 fantasy leagues. That drops tomorrow. But if you sign up after the fact, you'll still get access to that. You can go back in the archives and check all that stuff out. And stick around the channel here. We've got a ton of stuff coming this off season, and we're getting going here again on Monday. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Peace out.